Carl Jung's most chilling insight was not about the darkness within the narcissist, but about the silent, irreversible power of the empath's disappearance. In a world obsessed with confrontation and drama, Jung quietly documented a phenomenon that most people never notice until it's too late. The day the empath vanishes from the narcissist's life is the day the narcissist's true nightmare begins. This is not the explosive ending of a relationship, nor the dramatic exposure of hidden abuse. It is the quiet, almost invisible withdrawal of the one person who saw the narcissist's soul and chose to leave it behind. Today, I'll reveal Jung's hidden theory about why the empath's absence is not just a loss for the narcissist, but a psychological haunting that lingers long after the empath is gone. Jung observed that the empath's presence in the narcissist's life serves a function far deeper than most realize. The empath is not merely a source of supply or validation. They are, in Jung's words, a living mirror, reflecting not only the narcissist's projected persona, but also the shadow self the narcissist desperately avoids. The empath's unique sensitivity allows them to perceive the unspoken wounds, the secret fears, and the repressed shame that the narcissist spends a lifetime concealing. For a time, the narcissist is drawn to this rare perception, intoxicated by the feeling of being truly seen, even as it terrifies them. But the relationship is always a psychological battleground. The narcissist, threatened by the empath's insight, oscillates between idealization and devaluation, craving the empath's light, while resenting the exposure it brings. Jung wrote extensively about the psychic cost of this dynamic. The empath, absorbing the narcissist's projections and emotional chaos, becomes increasingly depleted. Over time, the empath's boundaries erode, their sense of self blurs, and their energy is siphoned away. But there comes a moment, a quiet, decisive turning point, when the empath recognizes the futility of healing someone who refuses to confront their own shadow. This is the day the empath disappears, not with a fight, but with a silence so profound it echoes in the narcissist's psyche. Jung called this the withdrawal of the anima, the loss of the soul image that once animated the narcissist's inner world. What follows is not just loneliness, but a haunting absence that the narcissist cannot escape. Jung understood that the disappearance of the empath is not a simple act of leaving. It is a psychological event with profound consequences for both parties, but especially for the narcissist. To grasp the depth of this phenomenon, Jung broke it down into 3 distinct psychological stages that unfold in the narcissist's mind after the empath's silent exit. Each stage reveals a deeper layer of haunting, a confrontation with the very emptiness the narcissist has spent a lifetime denying. Stage 1, the collapse of the mirror. In the immediate aftermath, the narcissist experiences a sudden and disorienting loss of identity. For years, the empath has served as a psychic mirror, reflecting back the narcissist's idealized self-image and, more dangerously, the shadow they refuse to acknowledge. With the empath gone, the narcissist is left alone with their own unfiltered psyche. Jung wrote, "The loss of the anima is the loss of the soul's reflection." The narcissist, deprived of external validation, is forced to confront the void within, a void that no amount of new attention or superficial relationships can fill. This is the first haunting, the realization that the empath's presence was the only thing keeping the narcissist's inner chaos at bay. Stage 2, the return of the shadow. As the days and weeks pass, the narcissist's suppressed fears, insecurities, and unresolved traumas begin to surface. Jung called this the return of the shadow, the re-emergence of all the psychic material the narcissist projected onto the empath. Without the empath to absorb and contain these projections, the narcissist is overwhelmed by anxiety, rage, self-loathing, They may lash out, seek new sources of validation, or attempt to recreate the lost dynamic with others, but nothing satisfies. The haunting intensifies, as the narcissist is now forced to live with the very parts of themselves they once disowned. Stage 3. The echo of absence. In the final stage, the narcissist is left with a persistent, gnawing sense of emptiness. Jung observed that this is not mere loneliness, but a spiritual crisis, a confrontation with the absence of meaning. The empath's disappearance becomes a psychological wound that refuses to heal. The narcissist may try to fill the void with distractions, addictions, new relationships, but the echo of the empath's absence lingers. Jung wrote, "What is not made conscious returns as fate." For the narcissist, that fate is to be haunted by the one person who truly saw them and chose to disappear. Jung's clinical observations revealed that not all narcissists respond to the empath's disappearance in the same way. The aftermath diverges into two distinct psychological paths, each determined by the narcissist's willingness or refusal to confront their own shadow. This is where Jung's concept of individuation becomes crucial. Individuation, the process of integrating the unconscious into conscious awareness, is the only path to genuine transformation. But for the narcissist, this journey is fraught with resistance, denial, and often psychological collapse. Path 1. The path of denial and repetition. Most narcissists, Jung noted, are unable or unwilling to face the pain triggered by the empath's absence. Instead, they double down on old patterns, seeking out new empaths or admirers to fill the void. This is the path of repetition compulsion, a cycle in which the narcissist unconsciously recreates the same dynamic, hoping to regain the lost sense of wholeness. But each new relationship is haunted by the memory of the one who disappeared. The narcissist becomes increasingly desperate, their relationships more superficial, their sense of emptiness more acute. Jung wrote, "The shadow that is not faced becomes the fate that is repeated." In this way, the narcissist is condemned to a life of endless searching, never finding the soul mirror they lost. Path 2. The path of confrontation and potential transformation. A rare few, faced with the unbearable silence left by the empath, are forced into a crisis of self-awareness. Jung described this as the dark night of the soul, a period of profound suffering that can, if endured, lead to genuine psychological growth. The narcissist, stripped of their defenses, may finally begin to see the shadow they have projected onto others. This confrontation is excruciating, often accompanied by depression, anxiety, and a deep, gnawing sense of existential dread. But if the narcissist can endure this process, Jung believed there is a possibility for individuation, a reintegration of the lost parts of the self, and the emergence of a more authentic identity. The haunting, in this case, becomes a catalyst for transformation, rather than a life sentence. Jung's case studies illustrate both outcomes. Some narcissists spiral into deeper dysfunction, forever haunted by the empath's absence. Others, through suffering, begin the slow, painful, courageous work of becoming whole. The difference lies not in what was lost, but in the willingness to face what remains. But what of the empath? Jung was acutely aware that the disappearance is not merely an act of escape, but a profound psychological turning point for the empath as well. The empath's journey, after leaving the narcissist, is marked by its own stages of healing, of integration, and ultimately, transformation. For too long, the empath has been the container for another's shadow, absorbing pain, that was never theirs to carry. The act of disappearing is not just a withdrawal from toxicity, it is the beginning of reclaiming the self. Stage 1. The void of silence. Initially, the empath may experience a deep sense of emptiness and confusion, having spent so much time attuned to the narcissist's needs and moods. The sudden absence of that psychic entanglement can feel disorienting. Jung described this as the withdrawal of projection, the moment when the empath's energy, once directed outward, returns inward. This stage is often accompanied by guilt, self-doubt, and the haunting question, did I do the right thing? But Jung insisted, this void is not a sign of failure. It is the necessary space in which true healing can begin. Stage 2. The return to authenticity. As the empath sits with the silence, something remarkable begins to happen. The boundaries that were once eroded by the narcissist's demands start to reform. The empath rediscovers their own desires, their values, their inner voice, qualities that had been overshadowed by the relentless focus on the other. Jung called this the process of individuation, the gradual emergence of the true self from beneath layers of adaptation and self-sacrifice. The empath learns to distinguish between what is theirs and what was absorbed from others, reclaiming agency over their own life. Stage 3. The integration of wisdom. In the final stage, the empath transforms their suffering into insight. No longer defined by the wounds of the past, they become what Jung called a wounded healer, someone who can hold space for others without losing themselves. The empath's disappearance, once an act of survival, becomes a source of strength and wisdom. They are no longer haunted by the narcissist's shadow, but guided by their own light. In this way, the empath's journey mirrors the very process Jung believed was essential for all psychological growth. The integration of shadow, the reclamation of self, and the emergence of authentic wholeness. Jung's chilling truth is that the disappearance of the empath is not merely an ending. It is a profound initiation for both the narcissist and the empath. The haunting that follows is not a supernatural curse, but a psychological reckoning. For the narcissist, the absence of the empath is a mirror that can no longer be avoided. It is the echo of every unintegrated shadow, every denied vulnerability, every truth that was too painful to face. The narcissist is left with a choice: to continue running from themselves, or to finally confront the emptiness that the empath's presence once concealed. Jung believed that only through this confrontation can genuine transformation begin, but he also warned that most will choose the comfort of denial over the agony of self-awareness. The haunting, then, becomes a lifelong companion, a silent reminder of what was lost and what was never truly possessed. For the empath, the day of disappearance marks the beginning of a new relationship with themselves. No longer defined by the wounds inflicted by another, they are free to explore the depths of their own psyche. Jung's individuation process teaches that the greatest gift we can offer the world is our own wholeness. The empath, having survived the crucible of the narcissist's shadow, emerges with a wisdom that cannot be taught, only earned. They become, in Jung's words, carriers of the living spirit, able to see and heal, not because they are unscarred, but because they have learned to integrate their pain. The empath's absence is not a void, but a space in which new life can grow. If you recognize yourself in this journey, whether as the empath who disappeared or as someone haunted by the loss, know this: you are not alone. Jung's work reminds us that every ending is also a beginning, and that the path to wholeness is forged in the fires of our deepest trials. Share in the comments which part of this journey resonates with you most. Subscribe for more insights into the hidden dynamics of the psyche. Thank you for watching. See you in the next dimension.